Welcome everybody to our Nomasis webinar. My name is Nadine and I'm pleased to introduce to you Severin Freund. He will be presenting because Jonas is absent today. Today's webinar is about Apple user enrollment. If you have already joined our German virtual breakfast yesterday, you already saw these slides, which are coming. The content is the same, but you are welcome to stay in the webinar and ask your questions at the end of the presentation. The session lasts about 30 minutes. Please notice that during the presentation your microphones will be set to mute. You may post questions during the sessions through the chat function or ask them at the end of the presentation. The questions will then be answered by Severin. Now I'd like to hand over to Severin. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you a lot, Nadine, for introducing me, and welcome everyone to my webinar today on Apple's new approach on how to enroll devices. The keyword here is Apple user enrollment. As the name already suggests, this new enrollment method is all focused about the user. Now first to my person. My name is Severin. I work at Nomasis AG as a mobile security administrator, and today I will introduce you to Apple's user enrollment and will show you the differentiation to the already existing methods like device enrollment and automated device enrollment. We will also be able to answer the question why we need another way of device management under Apple. First, we will find out what the idea behind user enrollment is and what keywords are associated with the new enrollment method. In a second step, we will get an overview of the different types of device management. Because to find out why there is a spot in the enrollment universe for user enrollment, we need to have a look at the gray picture on which methods there are in general, also on the Android side as well as on the Apple side. So in the next step then, we will compare the Apple enrollment systems, user enrollment, device enrollment, and automated enrollment to see the exact differences there. Related to the features they provide and related to the restrictions that they are able to do. As well as the requirements you will need to have set up for rolling out user enrollment, and we will have a talk about managed Apple IDs as they are a very important part of user enrollment. We will look at the protection, how the company data is protected on your device. And at the end, we will have an example where you can see how a device is enrolled, for example, in Intune. So what is user enrollment exactly? User enrollment is greatly focused on bring your own device. As it already says in the name, it is user-focused and not device-focused. It is about providing the most security possibles with good selections of features. And it enables you as an administrator to efficiently manage the device with as many features as you need, but as less. We try to enable the administrator to have the functions that he needs, but enable also the user to have as much privacy as can be. When enrolling in user enrollment, a separate work volume will be created on your device, which is a big difference to the device enrollment we already have with Apple. So it creates a separate work volume where the VPP apps, volume purchase program apps, will be installed. Also in-house apps, third-party apps, and also the native apps from Apple. The native apps will support dual identities. That means you will be able to have a managed Apple ID, a corporate Apple ID, as well as a private Apple ID connected to those apps. So that would be calendar, mail, keychain, notes, where you can have both the corporate data as well as the private. So now to get an overview about all the methods there are. We both on Android and iOS, we have the probably lightest version of device management. At the top, we have MOM only, mobile application management, which enables you to install applications on the phone and give them a configuration to protect the data inside the app. So that's the basic enrollment method. Then on the Android side, for the bring your own device solution, we have work profile and enhanced work profile. The same alternative on the iOS side is new user enrollment, and as we currently, most of you will have enrolled device enrollment for either corporate devices or bring your own device types. In Android, we have fully managed and dedicated for the corporate phones in the bottom, where you can manage almost every function of the device, which is compared to the automated device enrollment under Apple, which was formerly called DEP, Device Enrollment Program. They did a renaming there. Today, we will have a focus on user enrollment especially, but we will also compare it to device enrollment and automated device enrollment, which Apple provides. The blue entries here, we have user enrollment, which is accessible from iOS version 13.1 and upwards. The same in iPad OS. It's also available from 13.1 and upwards. All those three methods are available for Mobile Iron Cloud, Mobile Iron Core, and Intune. And on the right side, we can see user enrollment is really aimed at personal devices. So it's really aimed at the people that buy a phone, join a company, and basically ask the administrator, can you please install my mail and my apps from work on here? So the device is clearly personally owned, as in device enrollment, which is currently widely used. You can have personal and as well as corporate phones registered. Device enrollment is only for corporate devices where you have where you can control almost every function of the device there. So now to have a comparison for the Apple enrollment. On the left side now in the green bracket, we see user enrollment with its features, with its functions. So we will have the possibility to install managed apps, these VPP apps we talked about earlier in the work volume. We will be able to remove those apps once the work volume is deleted. And we can also configure accounts, means you can have, in the end, you can have your O365 work account as well as your O365 private account installed and usable on the device. You will be able to enforce a passcode, which is 6 digits and not simple. So you will be able to restrict the easy pins as well as dates, for example, for PIN codes for the user. And this is really a basic fundament to security with user enrollment. Then you can only read out managed apps. You cannot see personal apps anymore like you did in device enrollment, which is really privacy focused that Apple set for the user. You can only see the certificates that are installed in the work volume and only the profiles that are managed by the company. Then we will have a per app VPN available for all the work apps, but no VPN possibility for the private part of the device. There will be an enrollment ID. So we don't collect data like the UD ID, serial number, MAC address anymore. It's just one unique enrollment ID for every device you enroll. If you delete it, re-enroll it, it will receive a new enrollment ID. Restrictions that are possible with user enrollment are, of course, the app protection policies. So you will be able to restrict the open-in function, how the apps are communicating between each other. There will also be kind of a wall, if you will, between the private and the work volume. So there's not a real possibility to share data inside or outside from the work volume, which is really a great feature that we already saw with Android Enterprise. And as I think this is really a great feature to either for the user to just separate work from private apps and also for the administrator. So we'll be able to change these open-in functions. We will also be able to configure the lock screen in means of you will be able to restrict showing the body of an email on the lock screen so that it also a security thing to not leak any sensible data to people that should not have access to this data. And in the middle, we see the device enrollment. Whereas here we have all the previous options from user enrollment, but only with added factory reset. So we can factory reset the whole device there. In user enrollment, we can choose to erase the whole work volume, but not the whole device. So that is one feature I really think that is a great advantage also for the administrator. We can show personal apps with device enrollment, so we can see all the apps that are installed on a device. Yeah, also a big cut into personal space of the user. We're able to convert managed apps to personal apps to managed apps when enrolling. We can unlock the device if the user forgot his device. There also a complete complex password is allowed. We can have a device-based VPN that is also tunneling private apps to the work network, or we have a Wi-Fi proxy, and yeah, we're able to basically also manage mobile data for the user. Here, UDID, serial number, MAC, email, they're all collected and sent to the MDM solution. Restriction like iCloud or app content rating. So even if the user has a personal device, the iCloud backup could be restricted. So he would need to do a backup on his local disk, or which in user enrollment is a great advantage. You can secure the work volume, and if you secure the whole device with a backup, you can then choose to have the backup encrypted. With automated enrollment, or formerly DEP, you had all these previous functions, and you could also configure restrict access to apps, filter web content almost completely. We can arrange the home screen. We have the single app mode, activation by passcode. If a device is registered to an Apple ID by the user, you will be able to just go around this and yeah, bypass this feature that normally locks the phone. We can also install apps that are managed silently on the device, enable Find My iPhone. We're able to enforce iOS updates or kiosk mode like single app mode, and some other additional restrictions. The important thing is that we need to have a look at the use case that they're providing. There's not one enrollment method better than the other. They're just matching better for a different use case. And with user enrollment, if you have a great sense of privacy in mind and security, this is the best solution for bring your own device. Device enrollment can be done as both, so that would be good if you both want to enroll private devices as well as corporate devices. Now to the requirements. Basic stepstone or milestone is you either have Microsoft Intune, Mobile Iron Core from the version 10.8. There was a beta from user enrollment in 10.7, which will be released as 10.8 officially, and or Mobile Iron Cloud, as well as other MDM solutions, of course. Then another requirement is iOS 13 or iPadOS 13. We will require managed Apple IDs, and not only one, we will require one for every user there is that wants to enroll. Also the VPP token and the MDM certificate, but I'm sure that most of you guys already have those two in place if you're already deploying with Apple's enrollment solutions. To come to the managed Apple ID, on the left side you have the picture of the work volume at the top and the personal volume in the bottom. The good thing will be that you have a managed Apple ID that is owned by the corporation and a personal Apple ID, of course, from the user. One problem there is that some users, or for lots of users, they already have their work email address configured as their personal Apple ID. And if you would like to enroll in federated authentication, so this means the user will be able, when setting up user enrollment, he will be able to just enter his work email address or UPN in the enrollment field and enter his Windows password, and he's good to go. So that's one option there. We use the work email address for the managed Apple ID. As long there's no one using their work email as a private Apple ID, that is all right. If not, there is an availability from Apple to do a cleanup. That means if the user agrees to give his personal Apple ID, that actually is his work ID, to the company, you can transfer all of those into managed Apple IDs. In the end, we would have a solution with the personal Apple ID, let's say severinfreund72 at icloud.com, and you would have the managed Apple ID as your work email, and with federated authentication you could then just enter work email, work password, and you would be successfully enrolled. Another possibility would be to just create a new domain for the Apple IDs, the managed ones, without federated authentication, but that's also a possibility. Federated authentication in the end is just a connection between Azure AD or a normal AD to the Apple Business Manager that needs to be set up previously. Now to the protection of your data. We see in the top left screen we have the device enrolled. With user enrollment, we can enforce a 6-digit not simple passcode. We have the restriction policies for apps and for lock screen and so on. And we can configure Wi-Fi profiles so that the user is automatically connected to the network at work. In the bottom left, we have some apps that are either installed in the work volume as well as the personal one. Like the Office apps, O365, can be installed in both profiles or volumes, and the end user will only see one app icon, so that he doesn't see this separation of the volumes. but he will be able to have both his work account as well as his personal accounts in the same app as two different accounts. And when there is data created either from a work account, it will have a flag to be saved in the work volume, and in that case cannot be shared to the personal one. Or if it's created with the personal account, you will be able to save it in the personal volume, and this also can be shared to the work volume then. But it's really also separated for every document that you create. So we from Nomasis, we see this as an advantage for both admins and user. For the admin, we have the easy setup, which I will show later on, and the security that is required to enable the user to work with corporate apps. We have app management to install, configure, and restrict apps on the device in a separated volume. We have the document management, which documents can be shared with which email. Can I share to Outlook or only to native email? We enforce the device PIN, and we can enforce an encrypted backup. So we can't restrict any backup, but we are able to say if we do a backup, it at least must be encrypted. And we have also as an advantage, we have a limited wipe function that also helps for private devices to just remove the work volume once, re-register if there could be anything wrong in there, and nobody would have to think about the personal data of the user because that would still be in place in the private volume. That as well is a great advantage for the end user, of course, but the important three are the privacy, the usability, and security, which forms into this like perfect triangle of working mobile. Of course, the end user has the control over, really has the control over the private device, and it is an easy and light device management. So you're not as restricted as you are with device management, so to say, and the advantage for the end user is also that the system administrator cannot access data that he does not in fact need. So he cannot read out the apps and is also not able to wipe the entire device, for example. Now, this is the first page from how a device can be enrolled. So if you start your process, you go to mdm.mydomain.com and start the process of enrolling. You will in the top be able to choose who this device is owned by. And at the bottom, you will be able to choose between them if the device should be secured entirely or if it's only the work-related apps that should be protected. So if you choose this device is owned by my company and choose secure the entire device, you will end up with an automated device enrollment process, which is a little bit different, of course. If you choose either me or the company owns the device, but you choose to secure the entire device, you will end up with device enrollment. And the possibility for user enrollment is that I own this device and only work-related apps and data is protected. Then in the next step, we'll have the enrollment process, the 5 steps, select the enrollment type, which we just saw, privacy information, which also differs from the enrollment method. Then the management profile is downloaded and installed. And in the end, the device does a first check-in to the MDM solution. And after that, the device is successfully enrolled. So, is there any question from you in the audience or from Nadine from the chat?
I did not receive any questions so far through the chat.
Okay. Is there any other question from which you might have right now, or you can also contact us later, of course, on our support email if you have any question relating this new method.
Maybe just a very quick one. It's Philip here. Regarding the calendar sharing, is that something? Do you have like one calendar that's giving like both work and personal entries, or is it like two calendars and two separate calendar, one work and one like personal one?
Good question. Hi, Philip. You will be able, with the native email, native calendar, you will be able to overlay the calendar entries, or at least that's what Apple communicated. I didn't test this for my own yet with the two calendar accounts, but this should definitely be possible.
Okay, and for emails, is it the same?
Yes, for email, it's also the same. You can either switch between the two accounts, or there should be a page where you can have both in both accounts in one inbox, for example.
Okay, cool, thanks.
You're welcome.
There is another question. Can the same device be enrolled in multiple companies? This is not possible with device enrollment.
Yes, that will still not be possible with user enrollment. So that is also Apple just focusing on one company which can manage your device. I think I can imagine this also has something to do with how you can restrict apps, on how you can restrict the lock screen. So if you had two, those would, yeah, maybe not go as well together. But it's still only one company possible to enroll your device with.
Thank you very much. I did not receive any further questions, so we will end the webinar at this point. If you have any further questions, please contact us at any time. Thank you all for joining and have a nice day.